Yo, can you guys hear me? Just let me know quick. Okay, that's good. Let's start with the stream. Hope everyone's doing good. Hope everyone's having a good time with the market, and hope everyone had a good weekend to rest. So let's start with a bit of thoughts on Bitcoin, which I think still looks pretty good. The last time we were on stream, we talked about I think we were trading around here and we talked about that how most of the times in a pullback, the initial move is led by alts and then eventually BTC follows to the downside, and that's where alts hold relatively well. And that's where everything bottoms together and we get some nice bounces. That's pretty much what we got going into the weekend. We got some weekend pushes on majors and a bit on BTC too. But solely on BTC, I think it's still a clean range to be playing. And only, especially during these last few days of the month, going into FOMC, where the price action tends to be super choppy, you need to be trading only at the extremes. Just like we traded on Thursday at this extreme, a good short opportunity on Bitcoin would be if we trade at this extreme and similar to this scenario, we push up impulsively, deviate back below, and that's where we can look for some shorts on Bitcoin. Other than that, I don't expect like I'm bearish short term on the rest of the market. The majors and the alts, rest of the alts. But Bitcoin itself still looks pretty good. Very clean horizontal consolidation. Nothing too cautious. Too cautious on the flow side. OI is still looking healthy. Funding is healthy. So everything combined together, Bitcoin isn't something I'm too worried about short term. But as I have conveyed my bias in my corner since Sunday, probably or since Saturday, that I am seeing a lot of ape behavior in a lot of majors that I don't like, and that's the reason I have flipped really cautious. I have TP'd my ETH swing fully. I have taken profits in some of my buys from lower, including the spot buys that we got over the last week. I'm minimizing my upside exposure right now on majors and alts, since I do believe that we'd get some sort of bleed and pullbacks on majors and alts, while probably BTC does nothing in coming days. So we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. But in summary on Bitcoin, not looking to overtrade this chop. We longed this bottom on Thursday. We rode it till here, TP'd fully at 119. I'd look to relong Bitcoin if we get a push either. Like, this is not where I'd limit long, because one thing I don't like is that we are making these lower highs and lower lows, right? So this was the high that resulted in a lower low, that resulted into a lower high, and that resulted into a lower low. And right now we still have failed to break above the last swing highs. So that makes me think that whether we'd get a range lows pullback or we'll end up making new lows, like sweep last week lows and push back up into the range highs, right? So this is where I set alerts around 116.5, 117, and the sweep of last week lows is where I could be a bit more aggressive and less patient. But 116 is where I'm setting alerts, and we'll see how market reacts around there to see if we can position or not. So yeah, nothing too much to be talking about. Bitcoin still a good looking chart, still consolidating into price discovery. Nothing bearish about it. I'll continue looking for some Bitcoin plays, but only at extremes, right? Since we are still at month end, we still have FOMC on Wednesday, so I'm just looking to trade at extremes on Bitcoin itself. Now coming to the charts where I'm actually having some really strong biases are these majors. Few of the reasons is one that ETH is now approaching this territory which has marked the previous tops. I do think the way it has traded this entire move up and the way its flow look and all, and the catalyst for ETH in coming times as well, we do eventually break higher. But since this is like the first tap of these range highs, and the way flow on majors look, including ETH, I'd say that we'd be up for some rejection from these areas. And ideally, if you are not able to break above sooner, I'd look for a pullback into the weekly imbalance marked, which is 35.10 up till 3,100. It seems to be a wide range to have as a point of interest, but this is something I'm looking at. I think this weekly imbalance fill is something we get eventually if we don't break higher, and that's where I'm looking to get bullish again. I tried my best past weeks to get people bullish on ETH and a lot of stuff that would be running. We got some good moves. Now I feel like, I have to make people cautious. This is not where to get, where you get really bullish and max long things into leverage. Again, I'm not saying this is like a cycle top or something, but I think this is where you need to be a bit cautious, including total two. Look at this 1.5 till 1.6 trillion area, and see how market reacts every time we go for the first retest on a weekly time frame, right? Most of these weekly time frames since 2021 have given some sort of good pullbacks on a higher time frame for you to bid, and probably the next time we tap here is where we eventually break higher, right? So with total 2 being at big major resistance and ETH being at big major resistance, and the way the flow is looking, I try to explain the factors that I am considering on the flow side that I am not a fan of. Like, for example, this entire move on ETH was supported by at max, if I remember correctly, by like this ETH increased almost like 20% in this move, while the aggregated open interest just increased by 10-12%. While now we are just seeing small 3-4% pushes up, while on every push up we are seeing like 8 to 10% OI being piled up on these small moves. ETH is one example. Like, for example, SUI broke out of its range on Saturday, a range break that I was actually eyeing at for a long time. We were long on SUI from the lows. I wanted to compound more, but then I ended up checking the flow, and what I found out was that SUI open interest is actually pushing into new all-time highs, right? So while SUI hasn't been able to make new highs yet, the open interest is still making new all-time highs, which isn't something you really want to see. And that's kind of the perps behavior you saw on SUI pretty much around these areas as well, right? So another example is, for example, BNB, right? So BNB got into new all-time highs, I think, on Sunday yesterday. And within the small move on BNB, you almost, like, this is a 6% move, right? And within the 6% move, we added almost like more than 30 to 35% aggregated OI. So I always say that OI alone is not an indicator sufficient for you to be making biases. But then when you compare OI over price change and over time change, like for in between how much time period has that OI added and on what percentage move, if that is a better indicator to be gauging things and looking at how quickly these open interests are adding and on how small percentage moves, I think that's where I'd want to be cautious, to be honest. So we had a great month in July, constantly longing things. Now I'm not getting too good of a feeling on a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's what I have initially. I think this is not a healthy behavior. We were short in Dodge and AVE over the weekend. Dodge took us out. Probably it would be the peak or top. But no worries about that. I'll be favoring more shorts as we head into the week. I just want to see that ETH starts to exhaust, because when ETH keeps on acting strong intraday, it gets really tricky to be shorting alts, right? Like, for example, you can see ETH was strong this morning. It ended up for Dodge to take us out peak or top on our stop loss, and then now it's bleeding back down, right? So ETH trend makes a bit tricky to be shorting alts, especially with hard invalidations. So I'm just looking to see if ETH starts to exhaust here. That's where we can add more onto our shorts. AVE is still running. It's finally coming back into our entry. Perfect bearish retest of the yearly open. Now bleeding back down. Still letting it run. For now, AVE is the short exposure I have. I'll let things progress and see if we are able to add more short exposures to our accounts. But yeah, that's what I have initially. So hope it makes sense. Again, in summary, I'd say I'm not calling market top over here. I still think we eventually break higher, especially on ETH. I do think we get a 4K breakout sooner or later. But you are much better waiting for either a breakout here on ETH or a good pullback instead of just trying to FOMO long on range highs, right? And another thing to be summarizing is I'm not bearish on Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin still looks super nice. flow wise and structure wise. So Bitcoin isn't something I'm really interested in shorting. I think Bitcoin probably chops around a while, like end of month, maybe even start of month, while some of these majors and alts that have piled up such an aggressive open interest, um, those open interests start to unwind, leading into some decent bleeds for us to eventually bid. So yeah, that's what I have initially. As usual, I'd love to know from you people how your trading has been. What do you think about the market, especially about whatever I have just discussed? Right. I like to have some good market discussions in the start. Don't start shilling your alts request. I do take an alts request, but towards like later part of the stream. So yeah, initially, I'd love to know from you people, what do you think about the market in general or whatever I said? How are you positioned currently on anything in general you want to be talking about, right? Other than just alts request. Feel free to do so. Salam Rahim, how are you doing, brother? Bring in some good discussions, man. This is start of the week. We had some good week moves over the weekend. Pretty sure everyone has things to talk about and discuss. Don't be this dead, man. You had a great call on SUI on Friday. How do you figure out what's going on to run next? I explained that in a lot of detail. I'll try tagging you in the post I made regarding it. Pretty much just looking at synthetic pairs, right? To just catch the next rotation. So pretty much it was me looking at SUI to Sol, and SUI to Sol chart looked really bullish to me, which made me think that we are going to get some rotation from Sol into SUI, and SUI is going to be leading if BTC bottoms here. I'll try to see if I can find the post I wrote. Yeah, this is the one. Just read this. This is how you look for rotations. Agreed with the chop while alts believe. Yeah, that's the plan. Is it a good idea to start DCA with each pullback? I've given a pullback plan and plan for me to be swinging things, right? So read it in our corner. The plan is, and we have discussed in the start of the stream, that once you get this weekly imbalance fill, as soon as ETH starts to partially fill this weekly imbalance, that's where we can start DCAing into our swing positions, right? For now, I think it's a little early. So anything below 35.10 on ETH, that's where we start bidding on swings. Looking for FOMC pullback, then Sailor starts. Yeah, let's see. Again, not looking for a deeper pullback on Bitcoin itself, but I think majors and alts could struggle this week. Just don't overtrade. The last time I warned people, we got a good pullback across board. The last Tuesday, Wednesday alt sell off. I warned people enough about it. Warning it again. Just don't press a lot of buttons. I'll try getting us positioned on shorts, but just don't be max longing things while a lot of important charts are here at high time frame resistances. Ave is getting back in profits. Hoping to re-enter Pengu long. We'll take all requests soon, don't worry. I think that's a great thing to look as it shows relative strength, but just curious what other things you look at in your analysis. Marco, I just told you, man. I'm telling you what I looked at, and then you are again asking what you look at. SUI to solve was the sole reason I longed SUI, right? So I wanted to long because I thought that the market is bottomed. That's why we also longed Bitcoin and CRV at that time. But I wanted a good alt to buy because I thought that the market is close to bottom, and then I in my search of alts I found this SUI to Sol chart, and that's where I bought SUI. Seems like you people are only interested in alts request, man. Something I'm not a fan of. That's not how you learn trading in markets, just asking for entry price and TP and stop losses. But nevertheless, we can go forward from these market discussions and get into these alts requests. How is Dodge doing? I think majors could struggle. Dodge to me seems like it's really aggressive on the perp side. A lot of open interest keeps getting added on it on small moves, and I do think it can be one of the majors that bleed back down. It's unfortunate that we got literally got stopped Pico top, and now it's bleeding back down. Let's see if I can get some new position on it, but yeah, hate this. Yeah, I think Dodge bleeds lower. I have taken partial profits over the last couple of days, but unsure if I should fully TP given the possibility of a dip. How would you approach this on spot positions? Depends on what's the partial percentage you have already taken out, right? And what's your plan behind those buys? If it's like a swing or a long term bias, then if you have already sold a good part of it, then it's okay, and then you just leave remaining to bid lower once you get this week. But if those were just short term buys and you wanted some short term gains out of it, then it's a good area to be taking most of the chunk out of your upside exposure. About Dodge, man. I had such a high conviction on it breaking down, and let's see how New York opens. But we look for some more short exposure. Ave is back in profits. Let's see. Even Ave at 300, that's nice. Overall bias is that I'm favoring shorts over here on majors and alts, not too much on Bitcoin itself. I think I'll go this week with a bit wide invalidations on my shorts because ETH is making things tricky to be shorting with tight invalidation. Like for example, look at Dodge. If we had gone with our regular, 5, 6%, 7% stop on our short, we would have been back in our entry. So you'll see more of my calls coming with a bit of wider invalidation on shorts, so we can just hold them comfortably. I actually see the FAG gap now. I don't think BTC goes that deep for now, at least in short term. Again, as I said, I'm not that bearish on BTC. Actually, I'm not bearish at all, to be honest. How can you be bearish on a structure that looks like this? Super bullish, flow wise, structure wise. I'm just bearish on majors and alts short term. Probably the next shot I'll call for the group is SUI. I think there's a lot of open interest piled up on it that needs to be flushed down. The trigger I'd wait today is for this daily to close below this yearly open, which would give us two triggers. One, a yearly open deviation, previous similar to the last time. And secondly, a good daily supply being confirmed after the sweep. So once this daily closes below like 4.12, we'll start positioning into some shorts on it. I think BTC definitely holds that 116K area. One thing as a trader you should always do to be profitable and really good at your analysis is never talk in absolutes, right? Never talk in definites. There's nothing that tells you that we are going to hold a certain level, right? 116 is a good range close area. We'll see how things react. But just as a general suggestion that never talk in definites when you are analyzing the market. No, I actually heard a video of FAG where it explained the price might come to close the FAG. No, it isn't how it works, especially in uptrends. In ranges and bear markets, yes, FAGs mostly fills, but in uptrends, a lot of FAGs get left unfilled, right? So let's say if you're talking about daily time frames, look at there are like infinite number of FAGs on daily time frames that we front run on these multi-month range breaks, right? So in ranging market, yeah, you can say that we can fill in the imbalances, but in a trending market, you should not expect them to be filled, right? I'm not saying, again, I'm not talking in definitives. I'm not saying there is no way that imbalance cannot be filled. No one knows about that, but all I'm saying is that if we are bullish, we should not be filling this imbalance on daily that we got from a multi-month range breakout. And the reason I say that is that since we bottomed on Bitcoin from 16K, right? You can just study this price action since 16K. Every time there is a multi-month range breakout, like for example the one we had in October 23rd, or for example the one we had in 24th of Feb, or for example the one we had in 24th of November, right? Every single time since 16K, whenever you get a multi-month range breakout, you never get to revisit that impulsive move up. Sometimes, like the only time we did that, I remember, is back in like April 25, but that was after a couple of months, right? That was after months of up only and ranges and distribution. And then, like 4 5 months later, we ended up filling that imbalance and then trended back up, right? So this is why I'm saying that at least in short term, if we are bullish, we shouldn't be filling in that imbalance. Sometime later, some months later, for sure, but not now. How is Nairo CTO doing? Okay. Be bit more specific with the things you want to discuss. Like what you're looking on Nairo CTO, right? What it's doing, it's printing this red 15-minute candle. That's what we all can see, right? But be more specific with what you want to ask. Um, Not a fan of like, no, doesn't look that good, to be honest. I don't think that it's really productive to be asking about alt request for me this stream, because I'm overall bearish on most of the charts, so you won't get anything productive out of asking me because I would say the same for every single chart. Like at least wait for it to get above this daily 50 RSI, right? For now, it lost this daily 50 RSI, lost this uptrend. Yes, it's a decent daily support over here, but I could see it bleeding more further down unless ETH breaks higher. It usually moves decent with how ETH is performing. So, can I ask you about Cake with BNB hitting all-time high and Cake breaking above yearly open? Yeah, I was actually looking at Cake. I missed Cake because I was being a bit cautious on weekend. This break on Cake, I was waiting for a long time. I think months back, we discussed about the same break on cake. We didn't get that back then, but now you're finally getting that. So it looks decent. I'd say like there is a possibility that BNB ecosystem heats for a while, considering how strong BNB has been trading. But I won't be this aggressive over here. What I can look to position into cake is we almost broke out of 1,000 and how much long range it is. Sorry, almost like a 167 days. No, it's more than that. Sorry. So we almost broke out of like a 200 plus days. That's almost like a closer to a year long range if you include this price action as well on cake. But given that how choppy price action is and my bias regarding most of the majors and alts market, I wouldn't want to chase here. The only area where I look to try cake is us retesting these accumulation highs that we broke out of, right? So, in summary, if cake gives you this demand retest around these range highs, that's a good bet to try, like around 2.85 till 2.8. Try getting in around there. What's your thoughts on AVAX? Looks interesting to you. Will it catch big pumps? If you want my higher time frame thoughts on AVAX, it's a dead narrative, right? That's what I would say. So there's no reason to be higher time frame that bullish on AVAX. Now, coming on some short term to mid term thoughts. Long give me a regular chart. This is a good flip on weekly. But another thing I don't like about AVAX is that it's also another top 10 market cap coin. Or it's like top 12 or 10, I don't know exactly, but it's another one of the higher caps that's getting a lot of OI being piled up. Like, so for example, within this small rally up, so this move on AVAX from last Friday, and this small, what's the percentage? 19% move up. We almost added how much? We almost added 13% of aggregated open interest. So this is another one of the majors that I feel like it's getting overly leveraged. I don't know why. Maybe there's something coming up on AVAX, but not a fan. Right now, like longing, chasing here. Any pullbacks into this weekly area, you can try along, but for now, nothing much. BNB? BNB looks pretty good still. Not flow wise, structure wise, it does. Flow wise, I want it to wipe out some of the excess open interest we have added since the weekend on it. So what I'm looking as a trade plan on BNB is something like this. Just flush some of that excess OI into this daily demand that's resting below the previous all-time highs, and that's where we can start bidding. So anything around 780 to 790 would be a nice bid to bid back into $900. That's the plan I have on BNB. Do not chase over here, I'd say. So New York opened. Just be cautious this week, man. Stay patient. Not every week is to be pushing. OI is seen on RSI, or is it a different thing? It's a completely different thing. It's so open interest is the number of margin contracts opened on a single asset, right? So the more number of positions, leveraged positions, margin positions open on a coin, higher the open interest would be. If you want in detail, like a lecture on open interest and how to be using it as a conflict, I tried to tag you in one of the education sessions we did few weeks back, I think. Let me see if I'm able to find it. Yeah, here you go. The first, like you can look at both of the parts. How can you find it? Just watch this stream. It's a 40 minutes thing. Watch it. You'll find all the answers. Um, what do you want to see to short SUI? Rahim, we just discussed that a few minutes back. I want to see a daily close below this yearly open, and we'll start shorting. How TRX is doing? Just try to be more specific with your questions, man. What does it mean by how is anything doing? I think Chill Guy could be a good shot, probably. I don't have that good of a history with trying to short it. Well, it was only once that we shorted it, and that ended up being like the bottom, and it rallied higher. But it looks like a good shot, to be honest. Hmm. Let's see. Over this week, you'll see me calling a lot of shots. Memes are like risky to trade. Nothing is risky to trade as long as you count in the volatility and size accordingly. I have this on hype. I somehow agree with being short-term bearish on hype. Maybe I am looking at a different short setup for hype. Let's start it, but I think there is a scenario where BNB catches all the traction. So I always say whenever you want to be bullish on or bearish on a particular coin or a narrative, try to see how its competitor or the alternatives are doing, right? Like for example, if you want trying anything on SUI, see how Sol is doing, right? Or see how SUI to Sol look. Or for example, if you want to be longing or shorting Cardano, you want to see how XRP is doing, or maybe look at the XRP to ADA chart, right? So similar to this example, hype is the DEX narrative of the cycle, right? The decentralized exchange narrative that we have. And the only contender to this narrative I could think this cycle where people could rotate out of and from is BNB, right? BNB being the coin of a leading centralized exchange, and Hype being the leading decentralized exchange. And I think posted Hype to BNB chart in my Twitter few days back, and the way BNB is getting a lot of traction past few days, and it's running into price discovery, I could see a scenario where a Hype underperforms by a lot compared to BNB, and I could agree with trying some shots on it in coming days due to the underperformance and BNB getting all the traction out of Hype. Can you compare it to Uniswap? Yes, but yeah, like you could, but again, that's on-chain trading. On these exchanges, these are like regulated exchanges that you can trade everything, right? Um, Uniswap is more of an on-chain thing, but yeah, like you can look for these exchange narratives and rotations in between. But more good of a comparison would be Hype to BNB, right? I'd say. Please TRX because I need to buy it. Okay, let's do TRX before you start crying, I think. TRX. I never get what to say about this chart. Like Justin Sun paints this so well. Like it's like a gold chart just with a little bit higher volatility. Just keeps on grinding higher. This was actually a good retest you got back in like last week. You buy TRX from 2017 and you're still like a holder of it. Not bad. How is it? Okay, so what's the oldest chart on TRX I could get? Probably on where could I get? Let's see on Binance Spot. So Binance Spot is from 2018. Insane chart, to be honest. So you're looking to add more. Hmm. Very little I could say about this chart. Like there are some charts when you look at and you don't have any idea what to say about it. Like it looks a little risky chasing here because it's approaching these highs. But at the same time, it's not one of the coins that gives you much of pullback, right? See how it has been trading since like December 22. Insane chart, man. Not a single major pullback since December 22. I'd say just like look, since I am looking for some early week and some end of month de-risking, if you get another push down closer to this demand, you can start look for some buys with tight invalidation. So anything around 305, 307 is where you can start scaling it. Like a good 5-6% pullback on it this week because it isn't a coin that gives you that deep of a pullback, right? So in any shallow pullbacks like 5-10% in coming days, start scaling in gradually, I'd say. Pump fun. Are you people still bullish on this thing? I think pump fun was trading around these prices when we talked about the best trade you can take is be long bong and be short pump fun, and that's probably the one of the easiest trade of the cycle you could have taken. I still think bonk outperforms pump fun by big margins. There could be some mean reversions time to time, but I don't see any narrative, to be honest. To be trying anything intraday for like a short squeeze scenario, this is what I have. So it gets above this supply, flips it, and you can try longing for a mean reversion into like 35, 36 cents. So this is the trade idea I could have on pump. But unless it gives me this flip, this to me looks like something that's just constantly making lower highs and lower, probably just keeps on bleeding, to be honest. Not that bullish on it. I've been bearish on it since the start, warning people that it's not something to be too involved in. Because you another example of why to look at the competing assets, right? So for example, pump fund was your the on-chain bot narrative, right? And pump fund was the leading one since like start of 24, but now bonk fun took like almost 70 to 80% of the share of volumes that pump fun was generating. So now there left no major narrative left to be bullish on a coin that's pretty much losing in the competition, right? Bonk's winning, pumps losing, so you know on what to be bullish on and what not to be on. Looking for a spot entry on a major on this correction you're talking about, what would you recommend? ETH for sure. Bull posted a lot on ETH when we were trading around 2900, and we caught a good swing for a move into pretty close to 4,000. I'll start bull posting on ETH once again once we get a good pullback. CRO and Popcat, we can have a look. Actually, it's not a bad looking chart, I'd say. Like, this is a big weekly res on it. So just observe this area. But if it's able to get above 1.6 on a weekly time frame, this could rally, to be honest. This is the coin of crypto.com, if I'm not wrong, right? Where's the date range? Weren't they involved in some scam few years back? Yeah, I saw some affiliation on them with Trump, so probably that's the reason it has been trading strong past days. Actually, this is the break that would be the most bullish you want it to do. Can anyone remind me what actually happened to crypto.com? Because back in the days, I remember it used to be talked a lot. Just to refresh the memory. But this is a good looking chart, man, I'd say. Like, usually I'm not a fan of dead coins, but with accumulations that last this long, this is like almost a 1200 days accumulation. And if it's able, like, we have rejected from this weekly supply on the left once and twice. Now, if we do break above, finally, I think this is something that could run this year, to be honest. So I'll set my alerts. It's probably not something that's short term, but as a midterm swing position, if it's able to break above 1.9, so 19 cents, I think it's a big swing you can take for a rally. Like, look at these imbalances on the left that we can start filling if we break this weekly supply. So yeah, this is the chart I have. When FTX collapsed, they also came under Scana because their balance sheet was. Okay, got it. But keep an eye on this week CRO breakout. This is a very long accumulation that if we do start breaking out of, and with Trump narrative, it could do decent. So let's see if in coming weeks, probably it will take a time to give us this breakout, but it's good to set your alerts. Any good break above 19 cents, and we'll buy a good bag on it. Popcat. Yeah, I think we talked about this chart in our Thursday Twitter stream, and it doesn't look that good. Like, the least you want it to do before you get bullish is for it to reclaim above 42. So unless it gets above 42, and you can see how pivot of a level it has been in the past, several bottoms and tops around this area. So unless this area gets flipped, you want to be patient on new exposure on it. What's BTC and Majors doing? Bleeding. Yo, Reaper, how you doing? Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Had a great month, to be honest. One of the best trading months I had in like a year. So let's hope the next one is as well. And the only thing we just need to do is just stay patient on times like the current ones and push on the easier times. And we'd have a really good end of month tracker once again. For now, favoring shorts for this week. Longs, I'm not interested and things look bad short term on majors and alts. Been saying that since Saturday. I don't have a good feeling. And we'll stick to it. Don't press too many buttons. You'll get chopped up. And that's the issue I see in a lot of new members, to be honest. Like, we as traders and mods would keep on giving you these warnings. And then finally, when this chop and bleed occurs and people just overtrade and over risk and lose good parts of their portfolio, they'd start crying, right? And that's pretty much what we saw last, like Wednesday, Thursday. I was surprised on the sentiment on among some new members in the group and how they were reacting. While people just don't like to take the warnings seriously when they are given. I need to buy 2 coin for spot. Which is your advice? Probably stables for now. I think there could be good buying opportunities, but for now, just wait. If you attended the stream, you know the bias I have. Once we get that pullback, that's where we can look to be buying new alts. I have $1,000. Again, how much you have is irrelevant. Which coins to select? Just wait for now, I'd say, because I can give you a go ahead on what I would ideally be looking at, but my selection of coins could change once we get that pullback I'm waiting for, right? I can reevaluate maybe the coin I want to buy right now. When we finally do get the pullback, I might not because it might have lost a big macro level or the structure might not look as tempting as it is right now. So that is why I'm saying wait for a good pullback, and that's where we can start to discuss about which things to buy. But ideally, I'd want to buy ETH related exposure. And I do think you're on a right track. ETH betas and especially this ETH DeFi's with stablecoin narratives like ENA and Curve, both could be decent buys to be getting, if especially if we break higher on ETH. But I'll only give calls on these once we finally do get a pullback on. I missed the beginning of the stream. How deep you think percentage? Like, I don't want to give you like a one-line answer and then you just stick to that. Ideally, just watch the stream again, right? Because I spent like 15-20 minutes trying to explain my bias and what I'm looking at on the market. HBJ, should we stay in spot positions from much lower, sell 5 to 10% to buy back lower? Depends on the plan you had on your bias, right? So and what you have sold already and what your targets are and how much you have in your stable still to be, adding and all that stuff. But I do think it's a decent area to de-risk and look to buy later on either a breakout higher or lower or a pullback lower. Give me a good, interesting discussion, man. You people are boring me out. It's start of the week. Things look weak. Just be patient. Shorts is my plan. Ave back in decent profits. Not decent, like slightly now. Like considering how much upside it. I think Pengu could be a good shot, man. We tried it over the weekend, I think, but it looks decent, not bad. For a shot, obviously. There are a lot of short setups forming. I just don't want to push too much on a Monday. But you'll see me calling out shorts eventually this week. AVE is still running. We'll look for more over next few days. Need one crazy 10,000 PNL after pullback. Let's go waiting your call. Just don't trade with emotions, man. We'll get some good trades. Don't worry about that. I always say to be profitable end of month, you don't need to be, over risking every single day, right? You can pretty much do nothing for like good part of the month, and then just in few months, few days, you trade and have one of the best months of the year, right? But on the other hand, if you like try to overtrade every single day, chasing some winners, you'll probably end up getting chopped up and end your month in red instead of big profits. Yes. XRP, RSI 30 minutes oversold. I don't use RSI in such overtime, and I'm not in a mood of scalping mages right now, to be honest, because I think mages eventually bleed. Yes, like if trigger bounce that you are interested to catch, I'm not too interested in doing that. More interested, the only longs you could maybe see me calling out this week would be in some of like a strong shitcoin that's running with some negative claims. That's the only thing I could long this week, to be honest. Like something we did with SPK last week. We caught multiple big moves on it when it was running strong on negative funding and a strong flow. If I see a coin, something like that, that's the only thing I would long. Can't believe how strong SPX is. Yeah, I was glad to get some buys last week on it, but I sold mostly over the weekend. But yeah, probably the top coin that you should always have in your list to be winning. Murad seems to be winning, while everyone time to time seems to be making fun of him, right? Like, remember how people were shitting on him when he was 95 mils, like 60-70% down on his public portfolio? Now his portfolio is still making new all time highs. I think Murad's conviction would be something to be studied coming cycles. CRV. I had some good CRV exposure, but I am out of it completely. But it is still on top of my list to be buying once we get a pullback. So just stick to me calling out, and when I do, I do think CRV performs good over the coming weeks, especially if we get a ETH season and a good stable coin narrative. Banana is 3-1. I don't know why there are so many bananas listed on Binance. S31. Bro, what the hell was this chart? Was DWF behind this? Insane. So this is even worse than TRB, to be honest. Like, I used to laugh whenever I looked at TRB chart. This looks bad than even TRB. Pretty sure this was DWF. Yeah, maybe it could run. I have yet to look at the flow on it, but this is the break you'd want it to do. Not something you'd long here, but if it continues showing some strength with some negative funding, you can chase. Let's see. What's the volume on it? Also, it's only on Binance, right? And I'm too lazy right now to be transferring funds to Binance and trade it. No. No, it's actually on Bybit too. Okay. I agree. Seems like a scammy flow on it. Open interest piling up a lot. What's the volume on it? Like the 24-hour volume? 10 mils? Maybe not too much, but I agree it doesn't look that bad. I'd wait for this flip. So you can see this hourly supply, right? If you're able to get above this hourly supply with a good close, you can start chasing some with a small position. Where would you look to do ETH swing again? I enjoyed that. I did too. It was one of the highest conviction, higher time frame swing. I look for something similar again, but something like this. Like we talked about this in the start of the stream in my corner too. If ETH is giving you this weekly imbalance fill in coming days, that's where I'll start building a swing again. Do we have a stream scheduled right now? I don't want to take anyone's time. Probably Muza's, right? Yeah, Muza streams after me. So probably this should be it from my side. I'll summarize quick, but before that, if you have any last minute quick or else. Okay, we should wrap it up. In summary, just don't press too many buttons this week. It's as simple as that, especially on the long side. I think alts, if you're longing, alts and majors, if you're up big pain. Just stay patient. Let end of month pass. Let some of these excess OIs wipe out. Let things play out while they are at these high time frame instances, including total 2 and ETH. And not somewhere you should be max longing, right? As a disclaimer, you don't need to trade every single day of a month to be really profitable end of month, right? If you're not comfortable shorting, I could get that. Just don't trade, right? Shorting is the only trade bias I can have this week. Calling few of the shorts more in as things progress. We are still in AF short. That's looking decent. I'll look to add more. But other than that, just don't press too many buttons, man. You'll be really grateful if you just stay away from green buttons this week. So that's it. Hope you will had a good time. Talk to people soon. Take care. Allah Hafiz.